far does Farmington go up? Yeah, here we are here. So
It's a neat little walk. It really is a nice historic walk.
this is Route 10 going up like there, and here's the aqueduct site. Here's the feeder going over to Unionville.
So this connects up to here
Yeah.
somehow?
No, this is the same thing.
I'm sorry,
Same thing,
I thought this was
same
Avon's.
thing. And, here's the dam over here on the river, right across from the town hall, and the feeder comes across like that and joins the main canal here. And then it goes north to Avon and, south to Farmington.
Oh, so it goes behind the ponds.
Actually, no. Today it goes right through. The ponds were destroyed. This whole part of the feeder is gone because of the mining that's gone on. But I used old maps because I wanted to get as close as I could to the canal days with a good topographical map. So these are like 1930, 1940 maps, whatever they are. But they've since dug all that out. It's nothing but.
That bump there?
The current trail.
That's right.
Does it come in? It does. It comes right in at the basin.
That's right.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
It's right.
See, the current trail has to get around the farmhouse, and then it comes in right at the basin.
Oh, so you're allowed to go over the farm there. That's good. Okay.
That's what we'll do.
Oh, no, wait a minute, I'm in the wrong place. This is what I'm talking about. This is the basin. This is just an incidental low place in the
Oh, that's not a-
topography that got filled up with water. There's nothing there to have a basin for. It's out in the middle of nowhere. It's just that there was a hole and they didn't fill the hole up. They filled it up with water.
So what I was describing to you, that's somebody's backyard now.
Yes, exactly, and you're going around that house.
Has to
Right,
go around it.
right,
It's part of the farm.
right. So you get back in
Some edge
again,
now.
bang it up here, okay.
Okay, so it's not a basin, it's just a low point.
It's just a low point. Actually, if you go out there, you'll find out that the bottom of the canal drops down and then comes up again.
So, has anybody walked this?
Yeah, sure.
We could. Is it still a
You can walk it.
depression?
You can walk it. It's perfect. This is perfect. When you get here, there are houses actually built in it. They use it for the foundation. But once you get over from here, you can walk like that, and you can walk like that, and you can, and it ends right about, runs right about.
Trail.
I can show you all that in the computer.
Route 4 is this Route 4 right here? Farmington Avenue?
Yeah, that is. Yeah,
Right, Route
that's
4.
it.
So that doesn't hit the way up there, okay. And this street here, if we're looking for a name, is there a street?
This is an old map. It probably predates all those streets. Certainly predates the developments that are in there.
Yeah,
So,
it could be.
so this dam here was more of a diversion than a impounding a reservoir?
It impounded a reservoir that went all the way up almost to Unionville, up past Roaring Brook. It's a 10-foot dam, and if you look at the contours, that lake extended all the way up and had a towpath along the side of it so they could haul boats all the way up to Unionville. And
Why did they do that? I would think.
You want to try it?
I
why?
think they just needed to divert water instead of impounding it.
No, you have to have pondage because you have seepage continually, you have evaporation continually. Every time you open a lock, you lose water. And furthermore, in the summer when there's a drought, the water goes down in the river. And you have to have enough pondage so that you can supply all these things constantly. If you just had diversion, you wouldn't in the summer have enough water to take care of all this loss that you have. I mean, this is 100 miles long.
So that was-
There's 3 tons of water for every linear foot. That's a hell of a lot of water that you have to maintain constantly, summer and winter.
It was a significant dam then, if they.
Oh, yes, it was 200 feet long and 10 feet high.
10 feet high?
10 feet high, and that was a low one. The one up in the Westfield River was 30 feet high, and that was a big dam. But again, this supplies most of the water all the way to New Haven and all the way up as far as Granby. It's the main source of water for the canal.
Did they have restrictions on how much water they had?
They could
hold
take
back?
what they, you mean legally? They could take anything they needed. And if anybody was there ahead of time with water rights, too bad.
So downstream. from
The too bad people
dam,
didn't always take it
dry?
well.
Downstream from the dam could be almost dry?
Well, depending. Now, it's entirely possible, although at certain times of the year, I'm sure the water flowed over the dam.
What about legal riparian rights of the,
I didn't say, they didn't have any. These people had precedence in the charter. It was not always accepted without a struggle, especially, I've got records up in the Congamon Ponds where they needed that to go both ways, up and down the southern summit. And the people who were running the powder mills didn't like it because the dams kept the water in the ponds, and they kept chopping down the dams, and the other people would come back, keep building up the dams, and it was back and forth and back and forth. A lot of that sort of thing went on.
my ancestor was Stephen Hart. I wonder if his grist mill was still running below that dam,
Where's the grist mill? Down the center of town?
down in Farmington,
In the center?
above where it turns north.
Yes, exactly. That was a going concern. I've got an ad for that. It was for sale at one point as a 3-story mill on the edge of the river. It gave all the information about it.
Was he out of luck for riparian rights for running that mill?
Apparently it was still running when they were selling it, which was the 1840s sometime or other. I might have it. I know I have it. Probably it's in the computer under Farmington. I'll have to look. But I can show you that. It's a good description of the mill. And it has to be that mill. It's the only one it could possibly
Your
be.
ancestor is Stephen Hart, the early one?
The one that came to Hartford and then moved to Farmington.
Yeah, early.
Yeah, the first.
He may have been the one that bought it from this ad. Who knows?
Yeah, okay, because we had Harts
He's
and
got
Avon in the
the big monument
1640s.
in the ancient burying
That's your
ground in
family?
Hartford there.
Oh, no kidding, I didn't know that.
So did they have a gate here near the town hall to divert, or was it, there wasn't a dam or anything?
There was a dam.
There was a dam.
That's a big 10-foot dam, 200 feet long, and on one end of it, above it, and I can show you in the computer again, I can show you the remains of the headworks. And the headworks are where they regulate the amount of water going from the river into the feeder canal. And it also allows boats to come up the feeder along the canal, which is built to the same specifications as the main canal. They pass through the headworks and then are towed upstream so they can unload to merchants up in Unionville. And there's a towpath along the edge of the pond, more or less where the old trolley used to run. The old trolley works all the way up to Unionville.
Now, you said, I attended one of your programs, and you said, I think they were on drugs, but they wanted to extend this to the Hudson River.
Yep. Well, not the Hudson River. They wanted to extend it to Colebrook in Massachusetts. It was New Hartford, where they were going up to the Massachusetts line. And that was all surveyed, and the cost estimates were in, but they had enough sense not to do it. It would have been, just folly. They barely got this one running. The people who were up there were upset, but they never got built. That is a basin. That basin was built, the same reason as it's wide on this side, so that if you have traffic coming along this narrow piece here,
Right.
you can pull out of the way, because this part here is not wide enough for 2 boats. I have,
Right near the town farm.
So it's kind of a parking spot.
yeah, right. Not that it was probably ever needed too much, but they built them that way. Yeah, you get the same thing up on what am I trying to say? The Flight of Locks up to the Timber Swamp Summit in Westfield. There's a big basin partway down. I didn't take you. You've been above it, but you haven't been to it. And then there's one down below. But they do need places for boats to pull off if there's high traffic in these constricted areas, and that's one of them. This is a key area in the whole canal. The entire canal will not work if it's not for this structure, because once they decided they were going to take the canal to Farmington downtown, which the merchants wanted, they couldn't take it this way, which is engineering the right way to do it. So they had to build the aqueduct and bring it up and then take it like this.
Like they
But
did
it
with
should have
the
come.
rails.
It should have
They had to
come
make it diversion.
across the Pequawbuck with a small aqueduct, and then over here like this, and then it would come in and it would have followed the course of the feeder right like this, instead of being all the way over on this side of the river, and they could have saved the expense of the aqueduct as well.
You really get a nice view of it by the cemetery here.
You used
The
to.
river takes
It's
the
all,
bend
that's
before it
all
comes
been
in.
destroyed in the early 1990s. That was all
Up in
torn down.
here, for example, there's a house up on the top of the
Yeah,
hill.
right, yeah.
With a bridge going over it, and the canal's
exactly.
right underneath it.
Yep.
Really is a neat little integrity to it.
That's Unionville, right?
And that's
No, it's
the-
Farmington.
That's
That's
the,
Farmington.
one of the
Right.
Amistad guys drowned.
That's a
Oh, Food.
that's Pitkins
Food,
Basin there,
yeah.
yeah. They built canal boats
right.
there as well.
And where are the locks at either end?
None. None here.
None,
You're on the
entire
long-
map is the long level.
This is, well, no, this is only part of the long level is 20,
Right, this
20,
all- this all-
28 miles long.
This is all within the long level.
Yeah, between Southington and Granby, there are no locks.
And it's Southington and Granby.
Farmington to
Yeah.
Granby. Wow, that's a lot of
That was
towns.
my
That's a
question.
lot of land that had no locks.
Zigzags around.
Yeah, lock 7 is where,
Contours.
The contours, right. So
Plainville.
it made sense to do that.
on the other hand, you find that the route of the canal changes because of this, because here you're at 182.5 feet above sea level from Southington to Granby. But as the land rises, you find that, where am I going?
Avon.
Avon, I'm going the wrong way, which I want to go north. Am I going north?
This
No,
is
this is north. This is north.
Oh,
Avon's
Avon,
north.
okay, going north.
Yeah.
When we get up
Simsbury.
higher, you see, the land gets higher, but the level has to stay the same. So you are no longer straight, but look what it's doing. It's bending in and out, in and out. And more extreme, the higher you go, as you go farther north, the canals start to wiggle and wander, and all these squiggles, these are beautiful things to see, but they're still there. And, you know, the farther north you go, the more it wiggles because they have to follow the topography along the hillsides much more carefully because there's no more land at 182.5 feet above sea level except on the hillsides, and they have to do this to the canal bed to get it to stay level.
Are these the Congamon?
Congamon Lakes,
the
yeah.
Congamon Pond's up there.
How about that?
There's a house over here. Remember I spoke to the Griffins?
Yep.
There was a house right on the edge of Quarry Road that they must have, I have a picture of it, they must have been able to see the canal boats going down through there.
Oh,
It's
sure.
contemporary with it.
Oh,
Are
probably.
any of these paths you've just shown us the path of the railroad now, the
No.
bike trail? The bike trail is
No.
separate from the,
Now, the railroad's
canal.
way, well, up here, the railroad and the canal come back together again.
right, because I've biked this many times, and it seems that we come in around here on the bike path.
Yeah, the railroad is going like this. Here it is here. It's coming in from like that. But it does not have to follow the contours the way the railroad does. It can climb grades, whereas the canal boats can't without locks, and they're too expensive to build and operate. But the Granby locks are down,
So it
are
looks like
down
they
here.
come, this is the railroad then?
That's the railroad there.
So it comes back in up
And the
here.
Granby locks here, they raise the canal 37.5 feet from the long level up to the level of the Congamon Ponds. And it wanders around up here. Now you're at 220 feet here.
So are any of these locks?
Oh, yeah, for
They still
sure.
have the ruins and everything?
I can show you all this stuff in the computer. If you want to look at it.
Everything right out there.
Oh.
That I didn't know,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
that these were still intact.
Some of them are, some of them aren't.
So that's a basin, and that's a basin, and that's a basin.
This is Granby's basin.
That's
Yeah.
Granby's, like Avon's basin. It's
Yeah.
squarish looking, but what about that one?
Granby.
That's the one you and I walked around.
This is a little basin which is, I'm not sure why it's there.
Yes.
But it's right in somebody's backyard, and it's just big enough to squeeze a couple of boats in it. Maybe because it's at the bottom of the locks,
189.
and that was there,
Yes, yeah.
you know, to pull
And
off.
this is Route 20, right? Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And then what's
That's
this?
Route 20?
Yeah, this is 20 here. It goes right through Granby, and then goes
Yep.
up to North Granby.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
So-
that's a nothing. It's out in the middle
That's
of
nothing.
nowhere.
Okay.
That just happened because there's a stream going down there, and it's low. And what they did, they put a wall across the bottom to enclose the canal, but it also kept the stream from going, so a pond formed above it, and just was an extra source of water for the canal, which they were happy to get. And the same thing up here that Mark was just talking about, but that's a very minor one. There's a nice waste weir right here Mark and I have been out there. The waste is just exactly as it was abandoned. It's a place where you dump extra water. It's a waterfall off the side of the canal.
Oh.
And I was hoping that it had been built in stone, but apparently it was built in wood. It's all rotted away, but the earth is still there exactly the way it shows on the engineering map of the canal. It's absolutely perfect and beautiful to see.
So that feeder that we were looking at by the aqueduct,
Yeah.
is that really, there weren't many feeders, I assume? It was because the way the river bends, they were able to cut across?
Two major feeders, this one
Two?
and the Timber Swamps and the Westfield River feeder in Westfield.
Yeah, coming across.
And the Congamon Ponds, but they didn't need a feeder, they were there. They fed the Massachusetts part of the canal into the Westfield River Valley from the southern summit down to the Westfield River Valley. And then this feed, the Unionville feeder fed the canal up as far as the Granby Locks, which I'm in the wrong place again.
Granby's this way. Granby's this
Go
way.
that way.
This way is Granby. Here it is.
All right, so the Farmington River water comes as far as Lock 6, comes up this way. And then, in the beginning, they used the Congamon Ponds
There's the lake.
to take care of this 5 miles. But after 1 year, the Congamon Ponds were not sufficient to feed both sides.
Wow.
Since this was in Massachusetts, the Massachusetts company owned the water, and they said, no more Connecticut, give it up, forget it. And so the Connecticut company had to dig this feeder, which is
Oh, and this is
a
the
Granby
notch.
feeder.
There's the notch there, yep, okay.
And it comes
That's right, the notch.
The famous notch right here, yep. I can see the lines right here.
And that is,
Yeah.
this is just behind the Cossett Library.
What's
in,
feeding the feeder?
Oh, what's just behind the Cossett Library? Here's
the
North
site,
Granby.
the site of the dam.
Okay, so
The dam
Nick,
site.
there you go. They are right,
It's a
there it
salmon,
is.
it's a
That's the
Salmon Brook
cemetery we're
feeder.
going to. That's gonna be where they live. That's it, right there.
Where's
Because
Salmon
there's,
Brook?
if that's
Oh.
Cossett, then they're right there.
It's Salmon Brook
This is
here.
one
It comes
branch
down like
I
that.
wonder
yeah.
if they know they're on this map.
And there's part of that still to see, which Mark has also seen. We've been out there to look at that. And parts of this were there. Parts of it have been destroyed by the farmers who now say they wish they
It's
hadn't,
Granby's.
but they did.
Could canal boats go up this feeder?
No. This was not a
House.
navigable
But they
feeder.
could go
House.
up the.
There'd be no
I
reason
think
to.
two
There's nothing
houses.
out there. Why would you go?
Yeah.
It's gotta be right, that one.
I would think some farmer
So,
would.
but I thought they were like in partnership with Massachusetts, with Northampton.
They were, but they started out as two separate companies.
So
They didn't merge until 1835.
oh, okay.
So the first decade, they're separate companies, and Massachusetts needed the water. They had to build another supplemental feeder in downtown Westfield from the Westfield Little River rather than the Westfield Great River, but it's only like a mile long. It's a short little thing. But they needed all the water they could get up there.
So
Got it.
commercially, they were still going pretty strong in the mid-1840s.
Absolutely, yeah.
See, later Hitchcock left Barkhamsted, came to Unionville, probably for the canal. And probably 5 or 6 years later, canal shut down, right? In the late 40s.
47 was its last complete year, yeah.
He moved to Unionville for nothing.
Cool. Where did Fred work on the Farmington Canal? Was that in Southington? To the south? Didn't Fred do some
Yeah,
kind
he
of
did,
survey?
because
Fred
of-
Warner, you remember Fred Warner?
The papers that I gave you.
Yes, right,
transcribed,
exactly, yes,
That
yes.
was over there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
He did a lot of research. He had a lot of
yeah.
papers. I think he went through the Plainville Historical Society's records pretty completely, and those were all
That's right.
donated
That's-
by
yeah.
Virginia
Yeah.
Hart back in 1970,
Fred went into a
75,
lot of
74,
detail on
something
a lot
like
of
that.
things. I just
Yeah.
don't
Didn't he-
realize it.
Wasn't it with what was it, 691 was put?
Yeah,
through?
yeah.
Yeah.
It
'Cause
cut
it
right
goes
through the
right
canal.
by it, right?
Right, yeah, it cut right through it, yeah. Am I connect? Oh, she's not here. I think I'm connected. I can show you all this stuff on a computer. Instead
This
of,
is really cool. I'd love to go out and see these locks. We'll have
well,
to-
they're easy.
have to
I
do-
show you, they're right here. If I can get the computer to work.
Not like going in the field with you.
Just about, because you're going to see things that aren't there anymore. Most, Let's see if we can get this.
Yeah, here it is. Yeah,
Yeah,
Hampshire, Hampden.
Let's hope this,
Is this gonna project up? It's supposed to.
let's see, I'm
Doesn't like
theoretically.
your password.
Oh, all right. Oh,
Can you help us project up?
There you go.
let's see if we can. Now what? Honest to goodness, am I having my troubles with this thing today or what?
And were they gonna extend the trail up that way, the Farmington Canal Trail?
I'm not sure.
Well, let's see what we get. Do we get anything up there? We don't get anything up there, and I don't know why.
Neat.
But maybe everybody,
Is it turned on?
give it a shot.
Hang on a second. It should be,
That looked like it went off, maybe.
This was their house, and then it became home when I was a kid. My town library. And we used to sit down and they got that house.
it should automatically pick up your screen.
Yeah, let's see if I go over here.
Mansion. Oh, no, that's.
I don't know if all this is turned on, because that's gonna be turned on to put it up there.
Wonder if it shut itself down while we were in there.
I don't know. Tara's not here. It should be working if it's. Oh, did it get plugged in?
Yeah, it's plugged
Yeah,
in.
there it is. It's plugged in.
I'm saying that that's going into here. Going here, but it's not. Yeah, I don't know the system to turn it on.
Oh, I've got to turn on mirroring probably somewhere.
Oh, I know, it's great if we ended up on the big screen.
Yeah,
But also we see
it's
it.
not projecting up there.
Is there
Let's see, one other thing I can try
The cable's
displays.
there too, but it's down in.
Play displays.
Yeah, it doesn't like it's turned on down there. Yeah, I know all that stuff, but I don't know their system.
That's some photograph or something. Does anybody know, is that the Farmington River and that painting up there? Is that High Blind Tower on the mountain?
Yeah, that's gotta be Hugh Blind Tower. That's the right
I wonder if
place.
that's a
No,
railroad
I
bridge.
doubt that's I don't think it's Hugh Blind, I bet it's the one before it.
Oh,
The,
Cube line is 1914.
but
Well,
that must be
okay.
Farmington.
I guess we'll have to deal with this until Tara comes
There
back.
was one up there that burned before they built
yeah,
it.
well, there were two up there
Yeah,
before.
and there were a number of
Was
them
it
going along with
Gilbert?
Metacom.
Yeah, because there were like four altogether, I
Why the
think.
heck can't I
Yeah.
get this damn
Bartlett
thing
Tower
to work?
was
Bartlett, that's the one I was thinking of, Bartlett. Yeah.
Can't get it to read his screen?
I don't know which way the inputs are. I mean, I don't
David
wanna
Leslie
mess
told
it
me
up.
that in there,
Extensions,
ago when he was there,
displays, sharing.
his name was this.
Thorson.
There it is. There you go.
Oh, okay, now we got to get rid of the other thing.
No, he's a professor at UConn.
That bottom thing is in the way.
One of our webinars.
Can't just click on the
Anyway,
main screen, it should,
they
the
were
bottom
doing
thing should
the,
go away.
The deep digs,
Okay.
the core samples. And
All right,
he
hang on,
said,
hang on,
he stood
hang
there
on,
with
hang on.
me, he said the Thompson Brook was a feeder into the Farmington during paleo time. And they know that from, I guess, and you knew that too, that was the water?
Actually, that's
Farmington there, but it
that's
doesn't
distracting, but it's not covering it up.
The difference-
There you go,
This,
perfect,
yeah.
okay.
Because
Now,
it's-
what do you want to see? I can take you anywhere.
All the way up.
Yeah,
Well, it'll take hours and hours because there's 2,000 pictures in here.
yeah.
But,
I gotta get in close to him so I can hear.
all right, we'll go.
Remains of where the prison canal, and you're walking.
If we'll
back
go
and
to
forth,
Farmington
Below, because it all washed out.
But if you follow that through,
and go west,
Brook and then
this is the feeder.
there, just a
There's the site of the aqueduct there. Here's the feeder coming out
Okay,
like this.
yep, I see it.
it's like we're moving
And if we come over here
prison to the canal.
and look at the dam site,
Took a picture of one.
this is the original 1828 engineering map. And you can see
I know, oh my
the
God.
headworks here, the dam here,
Yep.
and this is Route 4 going out like that.
We have about a dozen people
Is
coming
that
Saturday for the artifact
past
identification
where the-
thing we're doing.
the
Yeah,
Route
last
4
year we had
bridge
about
is?
30. We only have about a dozen sites.
This is right across from the town hall.
Hoping to get a few more.
This is
Paul, wait.
a house which still stands, Mr. Gridley's house. The town hall is right there. Mr. Thompson's house was there. This is the dam.
Saturday from 1 to.
This is the pond.
Did that dam wash out
Do you
frequently?
want to pop by?
That's gonna be at the library.
Not frequently, but on occasion, when there were huge storms, parts of it got washed away. This is the 1829
1829?
map of Farmington.
You guys don't have, I'm gonna be sick.
It's okay.
And
Lee, if you want, why don't you
I'm
sit?
okay, I'm okay.
here is a more recent one.
Because once you get him going, it's,
It's
you know.
1834, which shows Thompson's house, Gridley's house, the dam, and more stylistically,
Okay,
the
yep,
feeder.
yep.
There's the aqueduct and whatever.
Yeah, that's all part of the route.
Here's the 1934 aerial. Shows the site of the headworks. The circle is around the dam.
It's still there?
Route 4 is
34?
there. I've got overlays on here, but yes, the feeder. This is the feeder. You can see it's still there in 34 doing that. That's feeder.
Oh, but-
Then you get the big quarrying over here, and it
Yes.
wipes it out after you get over the railroad.
But the
in
dam wasn't there in 34, right?
parts of it were still there. Parts of it are still there, but you got to know what to look for. But the dam, the pond would have gone all the way up here off the screen. Now, you're looking at the headworks. This is
That's the entrance. to
this is the dam is going off like this across the river, and it's 10 feet high, and the top of the dam is something like this. Then you have the remains of the headworks like this, which came down, and then up on this side where it's missing. This is a 1932 from Mr. Hart, but he's looking into the mouth of the feeder, and this is absolutely documentable both topographically and here, because you see inside the square is the roof of a house, which was newly built in 1931 as a summer house. It still stands there today. It's like 1541 Farmington Avenue or something like that. It's still there. So that locates this absolutely. And here you are looking the other way. The last one was looking this way. This one is looking upstream. The dam would have come across like that. And there's the level in the pond like that. And
Thank you for this. Just,
Now-
just
take a look at these trees, because
Great graphic.
this is what it looks like today. And those trees are the same trees, and in the circle is where the headworks was. And now if you turn around and look the other way, there is the summer house looking from the side of the headwork, and this dip with a fence
Well, you can
is the
see- yeah,
feeder
you can see-
canal running down like this, right by there.
Could
Right.
the canal boats enter the reservoir?
Yes,
So they could get on the actual Farmington River there, huh?
why am I not going, I'm getting some sort of a malfunction here. Well, I don't know what's going on. Maybe I have to go, oh, yeah, wait a minute. I did something wrong. I don't know what I did there. Okay, so we're here, and we're going to go like this. This is the site of the dam in 1933, and there is what it would have looked like in stone going across. It's like 198 feet long, I think.
Wow.
It takes the water from 175 feet at the contour of the river now up to 185 feet, and it has to feed into the canal at 182 and a half feet. So there's that. 1932, this is what's left of the dam, according to Mr. Hart. Now, it's not dam, but it's timber. And it goes across the river and it goes downstream. And I don't know what to make of it exact. He was there, he took it, he says it was a dam. And I think what it is some sort of an apron, whereas the stone of the dam would have been up here. This apron would have been there, covered with planks, to prevent the bottom of the dam from being undermined by water going over the top of the dam. So this is probably the downstream side, and that's the remains of the framework, which was covered with planks
Well, it's like a
as an
cribbing.
apron. Yeah, an apron that would keep the water from undermining the foundation of the dam.
So we're looking at it, kind of looking north. That's going
Your
up
guess
the
there
river.
is as good as mine. I don't know how he took this, but if my interpretation is right, you're looking towards the headworks across the river. Downstream is right and upstream is left.
You'd be on the south side of the river.
Here we are looking the same thing, but going out towards the deeper part of the river.
So that dam did not have a spillway, it just,
Well, yeah, I think it washed over the top, yeah.
wow.
It was put together with stone. These are some of the stones that still are there, which were part of the dam. It was put together with iron rods when they were inserted into holes in the stone. And here you can see one of the
Yeah.
holes in the stone there. If the iron rods went to hold it together.
Yeah, bars, yeah.
This is a picture looking downstream toward the dam. The dam was down there where it says dam, you can barely see it, and the headworks is over to the left side. And interestingly enough, there's this rock in the circle. Now we're upstream in the pond, looking down at the dam site. And you come a little closer and you see this rock, and look at this thing here.
High alpha boat.
Got chains. Yep.
It looks period, I'm sure it is period. Mr. Gridley owned a canal boat, the American Eagle. He lived in the house across from this rock. He parked his boat, I'm sure, in the pond above the dam. He tied it up to that, and that's still there to see.
That's common sense.
Very cool.
All right,
There's the feeder.
so
Yep.
there's the feeder. If we go along down the feeder a little bit more, we're down now in this area here. And, well, we don't need to look at that. This is what it looks like as you're getting closer to Route 4, that dip right there. And you're going up the feeder towards the dam. And this is what it looked like in 1933. It wasn't quite as dry as it is now, but then it had water and water plants in it. And that's what it looks like today. You're looking here, view west. Okay, so we're looking towards the dam, and down there in the little square is the fence that I showed you before that goes down through the yard and up by the house. So in that box up there, to locate this more or less corresponds to what Mr. Hart was talking about here. I don't know which way he's looking here, but I think he's looking west.
Yep.
And that's, that's we were looking from the other way, this way, into that box in the previous picture. I don't know what the last picture is. Oh, this is looking, there's the house, here's
Yep.
the dip, there's the fence, and out here is the headworks. And those are the trees that appear in the 1932 picture, and they now appear in my picture. So the trees are still there. And, the whole thing goes along like this. I won't skip on everyone, but
Brickyard Road.
here is some old pictures of things that don't exist anymore
That's
because
Brickyard Road?
this is 1932, and this is somewhere in the Poplar Swamp area. You can see the water. And there's another one.
It must have affected the flow going through Farmington of the actual river.
Sure.
I mean, it must
Well-
have really been a lot lower.
Well, the river was a lot different then, too. It wasn't all dammed up. Since 55, they've dammed the entire river all the way up, and so it's not the
There's a
same river
series of them.
anymore.
True.
It probably flowed and drained the same area, but there was a lot more flow around the year.
yeah.
And these people are only taking the bottom 10 feet, and whatever came down the river over and above that, except in the summer maybe, then it probably did dry up. This is the junction with the feeder. And this is on the map, the 1828 map. Here's the feeder. Here's the
Okay,
towpath
the
bridge I was
aqueduct.
talking about. Here is the waste weir. The aqueduct is off over this way. And this is the canal north, and
I
here's the
see.
basin.
Okay, could you stop at the waste weir again? Because we should be able to see it, right?
Yeah, you should, but it's not there. I think it's when you walk down the trail and there's a gradual slope down, instead of walking out on the abutment, you go down to get to the bottom of the abutment to walk out to the river. I think that's probably where it was, and it probably is sloping because of that, but it's no longer there for one reason or another.
And could I ask again, when you get up to on the towpath, on the north there,
Up here, yeah.
Have you tried to walk to the right, toward the river? How far down can you get? Because I've never tried.
This is the only really good way to go there now, is to get off here and go down the slope and walk along.
Yeah,
If you can do this, and I have done this.
You have done it?
But it's a hell of a job because it's all covered with brambles.
Yeah.
And it's very
not worth
narrow.
opening up.
And it's very narrow because this part was not built to the same specifications of the canal. This part, because it was such a valuable and expensive thing to build, and they didn't want to erode it, I imagine, they lined with a trunk, a wooden trunk, which is the same, probably the same dimensions as the aqueduct, 14 feet wide. But if you go there and walk down it now, it's noticeably narrow, even though it's eroded. It's not like the one on the other side, which is built according to the specifications of the main canal. This one was a one-boat only affair, which may be why they had this basin right here.
There's the basin, yep.
Yeah.
In the base, where, I'm trying to figure out where Tillotson Road is?
This is it here.
That's it, that's
Yeah.
the bed of the road.
It's Old Farms down here and there's Tillotson up
Yeah,
here.
up there. And so
Depending
the
what town you're in.
basin was not in the middle of the road, it was to the.
Well, they took the base, you find that a lot. Where you have conflicts with roads and canal, the roads always move. Things are radically different. Even in the center of Farmington, where the canal went through, they had to move all the roads and put 3 or 4 different bridges to get over the canal back and forth. You'll see that on the east side. But this always, when I first saw this, I had a fit because I'm standing right here. I got this in my mind. There's the map. And by golly, you know, there it is.
There it is.
There goes the Unionville, this goes to Avon, and behind you is the aqueduct. And it's just the way it is on the map. And that's there to look at today, except it's all overgrown.
Did the feeder have a towpath?
This feeder had a towpath because it went to Unionville. It was built according to the same specifications of the main canal because it was going not only to Unionville, but it was supposed to be the rest of the canal went up to Colebrook if they ever built that extension. So they built this part according to those specifications. So if this is main canal specifications on both sides with towpath. Now we're going,
Seen that break when we went, when we walked it.
now we're looking east, the towpath's on the left. And now we're looking west. There's the towpath here. Here's the main hill that you go on when you're going on your walk, I imagine, and the point where it joins is over here someplace or other. This is Mr. Hart's picture. Feeder with the west of the canal. Here we are. The Polo Club is over here down the hill, but the towpath goes along here, along that side. And then when we get over here, heading south again, you can see all these houses built like this along the side of the road. This is Old Farms, or Town Farm Road. These are all built, oriented the way they are because they are built with their foundations in the feeder. So this one, and and there's several more. They're in the feeder. They're absolutely in the feeder. Here's a reconstruction showing that part of the feeder. This is a.
That's the feeder. Oh.
And this is a 1970 imagination picture, but there they are going from Unionville to Church and Farmington, up the feeder, and then they'll go over the aqueduct and down to Farmington.
Look at that, it's really neat.
And there's a Mr. Hart's old picture.
Could you go back, Carl? Because that imagination picture shows the abutment on the east side of the river, directly on the water, and
You know
your
what?
model shows
This was
it
done
with a lot
by
of
an
land.
artist who'd never seen the canal. In 1970, he has a lot of good pictures that show a lot of good things, but they're not at all accurate. I doubt it was artistic license, it was just ignorance. So, no, yeah, I know what you mean, but no, really and truly, the earth came all the way out like this. He didn't know that.
So part of the feeder went through the golf course today?
Oh, now you're talking, now
Is that
you're.
too far south?
Well, we can go there. We can go anywhere here. You want to go down to the golf course? We can do that. Let me just show you in where
Yeah, get a,
Ice Pond, Poplar Swamp. But I just want to see if I can get canal bed. Oh, you were talking about down here too.
yeah,
Canal
the
bed.
Texas golf course.
Yeah,
It would be just south of the basin.
yeah, I know it. Let's see if this is where we want to be.
You get
No,
Devonwood, and then you get the golf course.
this is not where I want to be. I want to be up here farther. This is where the Pequabic River comes into the Farmington River.
Oh, that's down by the water.
There is,
Oh, yes.
yeah, with the house
cemetery.
in there.
I've been there. The cemetery's up on the hill.
no, the cemetery's behind us. I think that's looking south. This is the same picture today. There's the bridge, and there's the canal as you were talking about. And there we are, the same thing. This is a nice picture taken 47. It shows the towpath, the canal, the Pequabic River, entering the Farmington River. And here we're looking the other way, looking north from the same location, and the canal going. None of this exists anymore because the canal was torn out of there by the cemetery. It now looks like this. It's been totally leveled because they needed it to have their maintenance road go by.
It's behind the
Yeah,
cemetery.
this is what it looked like just before it was destroyed. The trees were cut down. There's the towpath, there's the canal, but this is all gone now because the cemetery, which is up here,
Yep.
wanted this as their maintenance road, so that they just took the canal out, which is a great shame. 1990 that was done. And again, more of the same thing. Beautiful canal
I
destroyed.
didn't realize.
Even by then, it was on the National Register, but it went anyway. Let's see. You wanted the golf course. Golf course is probably this guy here. Here we are. This is the canal
that's the
coming through the,
Farmington. Golf course,
right. And
or
here
country club.
there you can see a
Yep.
picture from,
Yep.
yeah, 1932, and there it is coming right by the sand trap in the green. And we're going north here. This is where it crosses the road. All right, now I'll go back up here. Now we're going to look at this little section right here. Oh, shush. That's my crickets going off. That's on the east side of the road. East side of the road. And here, that's over here. Now we've got up to the place where we're going to cross the river. There's the river down there. This is a widened part of the canal which served the purpose of a basin, I believe, if it was indeed there, and I think it was, so that the canal boats could park here. And there you can see you're going out
Yep.
toward the river. This
Yep.
part you can walk on today. And there you can see how nicely the berm goes over and the towpath's on this side. And then we'll go over to the aqueduct itself. And there's the 1845, more or less, painting. And you can see the props that are holding up the pier, which is a third pier, which is on the edge of the river, the one that was undermined. And it goes 6, 5, 4, 3. Yeah, 2 and 1 are up here on the land.
So,
And this is a 1970 picture from the same artist. It's a nice picture. It gets the concept across perfectly,
Right.
but it's got 6 or 8 glaring errors in it, but he didn't know any better.
and they never tried to convert it to a wagon bridge or anything like that
It
later on.
probably was indeed used after the canal went out of business, until maybe for 10 years or so, I would guess. But when this canal went out of business, a lot of the old bed and the towpath became used as roads, especially up in Westfield, where you wanted to get from Little River in Westfield to Southwick. It's much easier to go down the canal and go all over the middle of Westfield and down what was Route 10. So, and the same thing here, I'm sure, if you were in Avon, it would be much easier to go down the canal and across the aqueduct to go to Farmington.
Once it was drained.
Well, yeah, right. And it wasn't always drained right away either. But again, if there's no source of water, it's going to drain pretty quickly because it just seeps into the ground. But this thing had all rotted away. The last time anybody dared walk over this was in 1862. So in 1847, when it went out of business, it was there intact in who knows what shape, but it could have been used as a wagon or foot traffic for, who knows, 10 or 15 years before it became too dangerous.
On the aqueduct, it must be in the model, is it wood with tar? What's the bed of the bridge?
I'm sorry, I'm not,
The water is not, is it a metal trough or a wooden trough?
oh, it's wood, yeah.
It's all wood and then,
That thing is built according to the specifications from 1836, which told how to build it. When they had to, these things are built quick and cheap because they have to go up fast. They haven't got a lot of money, and they know darn well because they're out in the weather, they're only going to last 10 years. They're not made like a covered bridge or a barn, which has to last a long time, protected from the weather. These things rot out every 10 years and have to be replaced. So this one was built in 26. It was replaced in 36, spring of 37. And that is, that build, the 37 build, is where I have the actual bill of timbers, which I use as a basis for that model, because it tells how many timbers, what dimensions, how many planks, what dimensions, the whole thing is right there. So that is an accurate model.
how'd they make it watertight? With
Your
tar?
guess is as good as mine. I think they had, like they did in the locks, they had a board with a V in the bottom, a V down, and a V shape on the other side, and they'd match them together. Not exactly tongue and groove, but something that they could do.
Wood will swell once it gets wet.
There is a name for that, I've forgotten what it
But I
is.
think if you were fishing under that, you'd get wet.
You would get wet. As a matter of fact, in Westfield and Northampton in the summertime, the little kids loved to go under these things because they were like a cold shower, and they would go under there and spend hours. They just loved it.
Now, the artist shows mules. Did they use
No,
mules?
that's one of the errors. They did not use mules.
Oh, really? I've been telling people they use.
So here is a nice
Oh, that's a
picture.
good one.
This is from 1882. When timber is still up, you can still see part of the trunk. You
Yeah.
can see the girders, which are beginning to fall off. You can see the props.
So Carl, real quick, the timbers on this would have been from the 1837 build?
Yep, that's what
So
you're
the
looking at.
The little tiny timbers that were used on that model that we have at our, that's gonna go back into our new museum, that little model.
That model is made out of one of these,
One of those timbers?
one of those
Okay.
braces, yeah.
What's the date of this photo?
1882. Carl Clauser was the music,
Great photo.
was the music master at Miss Porter's school. He was a Russian who was an immigrant, but he was a music master, and he took up landscape photography, and he went around and he photographed a lot of this sort of thing.
Great photo.
It is. It's in his. And here we have. This is 1929, and there's the house that was talking about. You see,
Oh, yeah.
And that's on the west side?
that's on the north side, the west side. Yeah, right. And here we
Oh,
are
yeah, you
looking
can see the
down,
house clear.
and there's what it
Oh,
looks.
neat.
God,
You
it's
really
Yeah.
see the
so
house,
much.
that's amazing.
That is a great, that's great.
And here is the embankment on the south side. And there is the buttress there.
Yep. Yep.
And here we see the buttress and the only existing picture of the first pier. You can walk on the bottom of this one right here now because it still sticks out of the ground, but no more than ground level. But the rest of it went to Farmington to be recycled.
So the storms knocked them down, or were they reused? Was the stone reused?
That was all taken, these first three were taken
Taken
apart
apart?
and taken to downtown Farmington to be recycled. The rest stayed until 55 when they went out. There's the bottoms of the second pier and the third pier after Farmington got done with them. This is from 1935.
That's a different heart, Paul, right? H-E-R-T-E, your H-E.
And there are 4, 5, and 6, and the abutment. You can see the slope of the abutment along here.
Assume it's not,
Not your heart.
right.
See the abutment? Over there, there's the wall, the upstream wing wall of the abutment. And again, the upstream wing wall again. And here you see the indents that take,
look at
these catch the bottoms of the diagonal braces, which are taking the load from the middle of the span and transferring it to cancel out and then be transferred down to the stone at the bottom of the pier, at the bottom of the river.
Now,
This,
would you see cut marks in those rocks that make up the pier?
what kind of cut marks?
You know, where they
Were
poured
quarried?
the stone, the quarry mark.
They'd just be rough stones as they appear there. This is an interesting thing which no longer exists, but it did exist in 1975. This is one of the bolts that was put in this section of the pier. This end goes in, and see it's wider on the end so it won't come out. And then it's at an angle here, and it catches the braces which brace the bottom of the towpath. The towpaths are braced the same way as the main canal, but they're much lighter timber, and they're way up here. And they're supported in the middle so they don't wiggle too much when the animals go across. So there's the towpath going across like that. There's a brace coming down like this. This bolt anchors the bottom of that brace. This goes in, it doesn't come out. This is the slope indicating where the sloping brace went, and there's a nut that goes on the whole thing, holds the whole thing together. That used to be, but it's no more. There may be more of them on the bottom of the river that could be retrieved, but that's the only one we have now. This is one of the last pictures Mr. Hart ever took, 1955, just before the flood.
I was just gonna say the 55 flood, this is just before.
This is, yeah. He's got a new camera, he's using color film. He's been taking pictures since the 1910s. They're all black and white, but now, you know, he's 84, 85 years old. He's finally got this great camera. He goes back and does this. And this, just for scale, this is another closet, but these are people. And those are the piers. This is another 1885. These are his family. Actually, they go out there for picnics and he photographs them. As we will see, here they are here. These are all his girls. And there's the boat. There's the abutment. You can see at low water, this is dry even then. Now it's high and dry because it's all land. And this is the 6th pier here.
And this is the south side.
This is the north side,
That's the north side,
or west side, if you want to call it that.
northwest side, right.
And we are looking across the top where the towpath would have gone across. Here's a buttress right there.
Yep.
Again, this is 1932.
Okay, we are looking,
You're looking south
looking.
or east, depending.
You're looking east, so on the Avon side.
And here you can see he's up at the house because there is the porch of the house in the picture, and he's up on top looking across. And this is where the towpath went. And then we're going to get some really good ones here. This is one of my favorites, where you can see the water flowing and that huge abutment down there. Before the house was built, and there's with the house. This is,
Yeah.
again, 1929. So that
Interesting, huh?
it would have been quite a sight for a house, huh? And there it is again. Look at that one. This one's even earlier. I think this one's 1920. So the house is there by 1920. It's not there in 1880. And there we can see the porch up there again.
It wouldn't have been hard to put some heavy timbers across there and have a bridge.
It would have been expensive, I guess. Those are 40-foot timbers, and you need 6 for each span. So there's 42 chestnut trees, 4 stories high, and still 10 by 12 at the top that you'd need. They didn't exist anymore by the time this was here. They had a hard time finding them in 1860 or 1820 and 1830. They had to come from northern Massachusetts and southern Vermont to find that stuff even then. This is a nice picture of the upstream wraparound wing wall. There's the face of the southern abutment. We can see how it starts to slope down, and the house up on top. And then we have 1955, when the water went as high as the black line and carried down all sorts of stuff with it. Houses, bridges, whatever. It all piled up against those last remaining piers, and it all came down except for the part inside the white, whatever that is, trapezoid. The house came down. This part of the wall came down, and it all got cleared out with the flood.
Carl, you said something that went by quickly. The chestnut was the wood they tried to use?
They did use, yeah.
And how wide were the planks?
The beams, I'm talking about the stringers to hold up the main load are 10 by 12s.
10 foot.
No, 10 inches by 12 inches, 40 feet long.
Oh, this is the length, 40 feet.
Yeah.
Were the boards at the bottom of
That's what I
where
was
the water,
wondering
was
about.
that chestnut too?
It was oak.
And how
This
wide
chestnut
were
was water resistant to a certain extent.
I think it was
Chestnut
white
is
oak.
stronger
I think
for
it calls for white oak.
But you were trying to find it back then.
Yeah,
This
trying
is
to
the-
find enough chestnut.
This is all that's left, basically today, is the downstream wraparound ring wall. And there's the picture after the flood.
Wow, look.
This is what remains. You can see the slope coming down. This is where you walk up to go around it.
Yep.
But the house is in here. You can see boards and planks, and it's just a mess. And I think poor Mr. Hart had to go up there and take these pictures. It must have broken his heart to do it, because he had in mind to use these as the basis of a new road bridge to carry Route 10 across from south of Farmington to Avon, and he wanted to put it right here and hang down hanging walls which would mimic the original piers and have the whole thing be a great reconstruction, but it was not to be. And here are the Corps of Engineers coming in. Again, here's the wraparound wing wall. There's the joint, and it's intact. Oh no, here it is up to here. Here's the joint. This much still stands today, and this still stands today, but the rest of it is all gone. You can see how high it was, way up to there. This is the berm side. The towpath side is all gone, because when the water got behind this wing wall and tore it all down, it tore out the towpath and the main canal, which used to be way up here. And the whole thing's in the river now. So that's, now, the next thing I want to show you, just because we're talking about it, is the Thompson Brook.
Yep.
Now, before I do that, I mean, it's hard to know what's at Thompson Brook because it's all gone. So I'm going to take you someplace else to show you what was there.
See, they put a wooden bridge over.
Oh, yeah.
It's nice, though. I saw it, and it's really gonna protect it, protect that culvert.
Yeah, it's really not worth protecting, but anyway, that's another story.
Well, it is for walkers.
We say what we can.
It
Yeah.
is for walkers. Well, yeah, because.
This is in northern Cheshire. This is called the Great Fill, where the 10-mile river goes underneath the canal, and they basically had to fill the entire valley with sand in a curve shape like this to carry the canal over the valley that takes a 10-mile river through. 691 goes through just about here now.
Okay.
This is, again, in 1934. You can see inside the circle is the Great Fill. You can follow the canal all the way down
Yep.
here and all the way up and then over into southern Southington. It's about 200,000 cubic yards. This is what it looks like on top. This is what I want you to see. This is what it looks like down below. You've got a culvert with a tunnel and wing walls and 40 feet of fill up here that carries the canal across. And
Huge.
let me skip through this a little bit and show you. There you can see how big it is here. It's a monster. But this is what happened in 2007, where there was a storm and the turbulence occurs inside the tunnel. Now, this tunnel has old hydraulic cement, which was actually manufactured and installed in 1826. And you have water up on top of the old canal bed, even now, which seeps down and freezes and thaws over the centuries. Yep. Sooner or later, something comes loose, and when something comes loose, the center of the tunnel collapses. In this case, the center of the tunnel has collapsed, and this is the roots of a tree, and a ball of the roots of the tree, which has fallen through the hole, which is now clogging up. And so this is a big emergency, because this river is needed to drain upstream even now. So this is what it looks like when you're up on top. You can see how the thing has collapsed. There's a huge hole in it, and that's down to the tunnel. You can see the arch of the tunnel there with the water going underneath. So that's what we have, but we're going back up here to town of Avon. And we gotta go south one, and then shows this.
The Thompson Brook culvert, that, you have the culvert still there. How much higher
Yeah,
would the canal have been over?
I'm getting to that. Here is the diagram. This shows the fill that was put in the valley. These lines are the amount of land that had to be taken to build a canal. And where they're wide, you're either filling or you're building. And here they're building to fill this valley. And this is Thompson Brook going by here. Now, there is a 1932 picture with a wing wall, sort of an unconvincing wing wall, but a wing wall, and a little arch. This is not canal construction. This is a reproduction of a canal arch, which I think was built by Noah Wallace because it connects his house on top of the aqueduct with the hunting lodge in Sleepy Hollow, which is in southern Avon. And this is the road he used. He went out of his house and down his driveway and into the canal and down there, and they had to get over Thompson Brook, which I'm sure had nothing in it when he bought the property. He built this thing. And it serves as his trail to get across. And the reason it's that way is that the arch is only 10 feet. The canal arch was either 12 or 14 feet. We don't know exactly. This canal tunnel is like 10 feet long. To build, to connect, to hold the canal on top, which is 60 feet wide on top, you need a 120-foot tunnel. So there's no way that there ever was a canal structure. What's here is left of the tunnel that once collapsed, but there's nothing there at all now. This is just an artifact. And here you're looking down the canal from the little arch that's there now. You can see the bottom of the canal way up here. This is the bottom of the canal. The top of the canal would have been up here, and that all had to come through this valley about 25 feet above the stream. And that means the canal is 25 feet above the stream and 60 feet wide at the top. That is why this little arch never could have done the job. It's built for another purpose. Now, here we have a modern topographical map, and there's Thompson Brook. And here we have the canal map put on top of it. And you can see the outlines of the fill right there. And you can see these two little bumps off the bottom. Those are these little bumps right here. Those are the borrow pits in the side of the hill, which were taken to make the fill, to fill this valley all the way across. And you know, you walk in from this end, you go downhill quite a bit before you get to the stream, and the same on this end.
Yeah.
That was all filled with fill, and there was a tremendous 120-foot long tunnel there, which supported 2.5 stories of fill that filled that valley.
Wow.
But sometime after the canal went out of operation, either the beavers or just plain junk, obstructed the top of that culvert, the upstream end, and the water piled up and the water piled up, and eventually there was an event which just overwhelmed this whole thing, and whoosh, off it went. It's gone.
120 feet, like
Long.
30 paces long, along the length of the canal.
No, that's 120 feet across the brook.
Acro-
In other words, the culvert took 120 feet of the brook underneath the canal.
Underneath,
The canal.
Okay, all right, 120 feet.
It's 120 feet long, but it's either 12 or 14 feet as an arch, as the bottom of an arch. You used to be able to go there and actually touch the bottom of that arch at the edge of the beaver pond. And I actually got some cement out of that. This is one of the borrow pits. There's the other borrow pit. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then this is looking down from the top. You can see how big it is. The canal goes down at the bottom, across to the white line, but this is from the top. These are how big those borrow pits are, and they had to take 2.5 stories worth of earth out of the side of this hill. And here you can see the original width of the tunnel here, but look how narrow this arch is here now.
Yeah.
And it's too short, it's too narrow, and furthermore, It's made with modern fine ground cement. Not the coarse ground cement you find in canal construction, which I pulled out of just behind here at the original end of the arch. I reached down there and I found the bottom of the original arch, and I pulled out a piece of this coarse ground cement from Southington, made in 1826. And this is fine ground modern cement that's in there. So not the same thing at all.
So it's meant to be.
It just meant as a little, it's meant as
He
a,
needs to get across. but he
yes,
wants to
exactly.
go
It's a little trail that he walks along to go fishing, to go hunting, whatever. I don't think it had any boards or anything else. It's just a little hump you walked over to get over the stream, keep your feet dry. You can see a little bit of the wing wall remaining there, but it's not a convincing ring wall. It doesn't really wrap around the way the canal once would.
Those are great pictures.
There you can see, this may or may not be an artifact. This might be part of the original foundation because these culverts were all built on wood foundations. They put wood like this, good-sized timbers, 10 by 10s, 12 by 12s, across the stream,
Where are you pointing to the wood?
down here under the water.
Under the water.
Yeah,
Underwater.
you see them?
All this canal wood is still there after 200 years. If it's underwater, it stays. You can still go find it. And on top of this wood, they would build foundation walls, and then they would build the arch on top of the foundation wall. And then when they were done with this, they would plank it this way to have the water flow over the big beams. So whether they mimicked that when they built this, or whether this is a remains of the original, I cannot tell. It would be interesting to go along here with a stick and a pole, a wooden stick with a nail on the end of it, and keep probing the stream to see if you could find any wood farther downstream or further upstream, but I don't know. And again, let me show you what I'm
It's really cool.
talking about. If I go up to Granby.
Rocks, yeah.
Well, yeah, but I'm going to go someplace else first. I'll get there. Salmon Brook Arch. This is the big arch at Salmon Brook, and you can see how much land they had to take. And this is Holcomb's Basin here. This is the Granby Freight House there, and there's the little side basin that you were talking about earlier. There's the 40-foot arch.
Wow.
This is 1932, and I want to show you this because the railroad came after the canal and used it, but it's at a much higher level than the canal. That's Mr. Hart's daughter, Virginia, standing there for scale. Wow. But you can see how these wing walls, these are the functional wing walls. They wrap around, not like that little thing that just went out to the side as a decoration almost. But when we get into the tunnel, you can see the bottoms of the stone wall that support the top of the arch.
And it's all keystone?
And here we are here. This one, no, the only one that has a keystone is one in Simsbury. None of them have keystones. They have rimstones, but no keystones.
Okay.
There's the stone wall, which is then based on the timbers which are running this way. And then on top of the timbers, you get this planking going with the direction of the flow. And there you can see it running off the downstream end.
And what was the purpose of the planking? To keep the silt or to keep
Just
the flow?
just to keep the flow even, I guess. I protect the bottom of the foundations, whatever, but it eased the flow of the water over. And then in 1934, the same thing happened here that happened in 2007 at the other one. There was a big flood, there was a weak point, and everything fell in the hole. You can see the bottom of the arch here. There's the railroad rails in here, people up here. Again, this is details of the 1934. Just after the aerials were taken, because it's intact during the aerials, but this happened in, let's see, this happened in probably August or maybe early September, because Mr. Hart remarks that he was very lucky to get there before the railroad crews came to repair it. And this shows the way the construction was done. They built a wooden arch, and then on top of it, they put in stone, rubble stone, in hydraulic cement and pack it tight. And then when that's dry, they pour sand over the whole thing.
Wow.
There, you got to pick. These are some of the railroad guys coming to do their job, but this is the bottom of that arch we saw a couple pictures ago. That's what's there today. That's all left of the northwest wing wall. And here we got the repairs going on. You can see part of this is still standing, but they're putting in a wooden railroad trestle. And there it is. There's the bottom of the wing wall coming around the bottom of the arch. And there it is when it's done. And in '55, that went out, and that trestle went out too. So now this is the third bridge. Actually, it's the sixth bridge at this site. And that's the one you go over now from rails to trails. But this is the bottom of the downstream wing wall coming up here. The upstream wing wall is over here on the other side. And there at the base of the arch. Now, let's go up one. Oh, I guess I didn't want to do that. I want to go.
While you're looking for that, Lee and I have to leave. I have to go pick up a 1794 dress that we had conserved. I gotta go to the conservators in Manchester and pick it up because it's gonna be put on display in our new museum. So I promised them I would do that today. But thank you very much for this. This was fabulous.
Well,
I'm so
glad you
I
could
got to see
come.
the model as well, and I guess I'll see you next week for the walk.
Right.
Yeah, hopefully I can spring myself free to get down there, right?
Okay, all right, well, Norma, let me know.
Carl, I'm gonna leave you the map. There are 2 parking spaces. This one is at Tillotson.
Yeah.
It'll
Saturday?
hold
Chance,
maybe
come on by. If
10
not,
to
see you
15
then.
cars.
What if
This
you were-
one
but I'm
is a
hoping to-
new one
we don't have
at,
anything set up, so the later people
at the
will
boat
always get
launch
the
and
Yeah.
the new bridge. It'll hold a lot more cars.
So, have lunch, have
If
lunch
we
over
do
if
it
you want to.
here, it's a
Yeah,
simpler
Paul will be
walk.
there. Scott,
This adds a
Casey,
half a
Jerry,
mile,
because, you know,
quarter
everyone
mile down,
institute
quarter
goes
mile
and
back.
goes. She brings her stuff,
And there's
so she'll have her stuff. But yeah,
a-
last year was a lot of fun.
a descent to a bridge here over Thompson Brook. But this is where we could get more people, and this is the simpler place to park.
You're not talking about next week, you're talking about
We'll
November
decide
or
when-
whenever,
when
yeah.
Next week, when we get together, we'll meet here,
Yeah,
and then.
Next week we'll
We'll
meet.
make a longer walk, and so that we could decide.
so where do you want to start next week, I guess?
Here.
Here, okay.
Here, and then when we get there, we'll notice the 2, and we can just figure out how much publicity and what we expect to get in the fall. And then,
You know, I've been
Again-
thinking November probably would be better with the leaves off the trees.
you think so, Nick?
When the leaves are on the trees, it's very difficult to see the canal.
Oh, there, that's all
The
trails.
canal is best in the
Oh, is
winter
that right?
when the
That's a
leaves are
nice
down.
It's the Yellow Blaze Trail.
This year is
really
particularly
nice copy.
bad with the vegetation. The vegetation's particularly bad this year.
Yeah, it really is. And if we're gonna explain to people at the foot of the aqueduct, we really need the vegetation gone.
Yeah, I remember we went, it was very thick. I can imagine what it is now.
Yeah, you probably can't get, right now, you probably can't get more than half a dozen people there.
Yeah,
And
it's,
so it's
it's
best to wait till November.
it'll still be brambly, but at least you can see.
Well, I'll go down
Yeah.
before the walk and weed whack it. It's just not a huge.
Ticks are good this year too.
Yeah, I came out of there with a tick yesterday when I was in there.
Did you, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not even there. I was up at the Thompson Brook Bridge. We're gonna try and fix it. Okay, thank you so much, Carl. Thank you.
Okay,
Hey, good to see you.
Nice to see you.
okay, you want to see the locks? So,
Yeah, let's see the locks. Let me
All
see.
right, let
What
me
are we
just,
doing?
yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm good.
Okay, good, then I gotta get myself out of here too. This is Granby's Basin, and as I said, the freight house is there. This is 1932, what's left of the basin. There's the towpath going across there, canal went across there, and this is the basin extending up there.
Okay.
It was much bigger in canal days, but it has silted up. It used to extend all the way out to Route 189. But at this point, it's silted up because there's a stream that comes down like this, and it just filled up that end of the basin.
Okay.
There it is in 1990, something or other, more or less the same picture. Here you can see the towpath going across. This is the silted up part here. And there's what it looks like toward the, so this is the Granby Freight House. Probably around 1900 or so, nobody knows. Mr. Hart copied it in 38, but the one in Plainville lasted until the early part of, 1909, 1910, and then it was torn down, and this is probably more or less the same idea. But this is a typical freight house with 3 levels, crane at the top. This is the land side, the water side's on the other end, but you load and unload to a particular floor and then take it across and drop it down the other end into either the boat or a wagon, whatever you had.
Is the foundation still out there? Or
There's
is that gone
there's
too?
basically nothing there. This is interesting because this is the basin side, and underneath here, I think, is where the stable was
That's
for the,
collapsing.
yep, this is where the stable for the horses were, underneath.
Wow, it's a big building.
This is one of the changing stations for when they had the packet boats running between New Haven and Northampton on a 24-hour schedule. This was one of the horse changing places. This is a little office off the end.
How did the canal company make their money? Did they charge?
Only by tolls,
So they were charging a canal boat a toll.
a toll, that's all they made.
So anybody could operate a canal boat on this.
You could go on there with your raft if you wanted to, yeah.
How many toll area collection points did they have?
Not very many, just at large areas in New Haven, Avon, Westfield, Northampton are ones I know about. It was a big deal because you had to have bonds on your toll collectors so they didn't run away with the money, and some of them did anyway. But they were just at major commercial intersections, and one of them was Avon, where you get the Albany Turnpike crossing the canal. It's a major area of trade and commerce with 2 basins, and that was a place where they collected tolls.
So canal boats operating between the collection points didn't pay anything.
Oh, they paid. All the boats had, for every item on the boat, including people, there was a bill of lading. What it was, how much it weighed, and where it was coming from, and where it was going to. And when you got to a collection point, you had to pay up. And they inspected the boats to make sure the things were right too. If they didn't trust the master, they could ask him they could force him to unload the entire boat, and so they could look at it themselves. This is the 1965 aerial,
Is that the tree line is the canal? Up on the left?
No, what we got here is, see the towpath is going across like this, and it goes out past this barn up toward the locks. This is the railroad, there's the Granby station, that's Route 189. This is the towpath with the basin. This is the silted up part of the basin running all the way up here to
okay.
189. And when you look at this, you can see the red lines are 1800s roads. And over here is this little area here, which corresponds to the map, the 1828 map, and I think that is what's left of the foundation of the freight house, right there. It's sort of down a hole. This is an elevated area, and then it goes down steeply to the basin, and it was built in that hole with underneath for the horses to go in, and on top for the horses and wagons to go out the red line to this road, which then connects with 189 over here. And that black thing that says site of warehouse, freight house, that is where it is on the map. This is a reproduction of the map, and that map there shows the freight house right by that square in the aerial photograph. Well, I'm pretty sure that is part of what remains of the freight house in 1954. But again, it's all gone. Let's go and take a look at Lock 5 and 6, that of these 2 down here. Whether it's worth the aerial or not, you can see the basin. This is Holcomb's Basin where we just were.
Okay,
the canal
yeah.
came out like this, then there's Lock 6, then there's a little basin between 5 and 6, and then there's Lock 5. And 4, 3, 2, 1 go up the hill on the other side of 189.
That's there where we were digging
This is the,
Power line job in the tobacco field.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
yeah,
right there.
this is the canal
But on the
running.
other side of 189.
The
Right,
canal runs
yeah.
up and down like this. There is part of the canal running
Yep.
between the barns. And this is the south end of Lock 6. There's not much there, just some scattered stones. This is looking out, looking south. This is the bottom, this is the top end, I guess. This is the top end of Lock 6. The lock extended down like that for 75 feet. And there's the other side of it here. It's only 14 feet wide. And across the top.
Okay.
Then we're looking the other way, Lock 5 from the south. You can notice there's a slight ramp up here. This is from Lock 6. It ramps up to Lock 5 at this level here for 75 feet. Again, not much there. And this is a little basin, right like that, off the side of the canal. This is the north end of Lock 5, right there. This is where the lock was, narrow. And then we'll go across the street where there's a little bit more to look at. Okay, we don't need to do that again. Here we are between Lock 5, which is down here. This is the original lock house, by the way, rebuilt several times, but this is the lower lock house for this flight of locks. It was originally just a small, like, two-room house for somebody to live in to tend the locks, but it's been added to. So this is the towpath along here, and this is the canal. Notice this is normal canal width. It's nice and wide. And now we're going to go and look at the canal
Yeah.
going along that towpath. Here we have bridge abutments. This one and this one are what carried 189 originally across the canal. 189 now is going straight, but in canal days, because the canal was there, they had to move the road, and when they moved it, they took it across the canal right like that. So there's an abutment without any stone anymore, and there's an abutment without any stone anymore, because the stone's been retaken or recycled. Here is Lock 4. Now, here is a curious thing, because when they straightened the road, they cut through Lock 4. Lock 4 is cut in half. Only the northern end of it's still there. The lock plan would have been something like this. It's a wooden lining, inside stone retaining walls. And these are all the timber specifications.
There's no photos of lock ruins?
This is the only thing really we have. Well, there are several, but this is a pretty good one. This is from New Haven, Lock 27. The railroad replaced the canal, and you can see this is in 1932. These are the stone retaining walls that took the canal through the center of New Haven. This is Lock 27. These are the header stones, which have bolt holes in them that you can see, that they bolted the framework for the wooden lining in. And this is 75 feet down there. So that would have been on the outside. And you can see how narrow the prism gets from the wide on the other side of the street to how narrow it gets here, because this is what happens at this particular point, where you get,
That's a great graphic.
and you
That's
get the canal in between wide,
Yeah.
and then we come to a lock, it's narrow, you got the retaining wall on the outside, the wooding lining on the inside, and then you go up a level and you come to the next one.
Amazing.
That's cut in half right there to see. And this is the upper end of Lock 4. You can see one end of it here, it's cut, there's the street down there where it's cut in half. Right down there is the street, and so only half of it's still there. Then you get the wide between 4 and 3, and there's wide again between 4 and 3, and there you see Lock 3. See how narrow it is? If I gotta, yeah, there we go, wide and narrow. And then this is into Lock 3, the narrow prism, and again a narrow prism. Then wide again, out the north end, 3, and between 3 and 2.
Yep.
And here are cows in number 2. This is an early Mr. Hart, 1932, but there he is with the cows. And again, out the south end of 2, out the north end of 2, wide again, and then the site of 1. This is basically, let's see, this is what Mr. Hart is calling south of Lock 4. It's really Lock 1. This is the wide canal between 2 behind us and 1, which is up here. You can see this house, which was the upper Lock house. It still stands, but the canal at this point has probably been filled in as far as the lock is concerned. This is the only picture we have of Lock 1. And it's unknown, but there you can see the stone wall. There's the lock house, the towpath will be over here. And that now is all gone because, well, this may be a picture of, he's calling it 3, it might be 1. I don't know where the picture's taken. You can usually follow his sequence of photography by following his, everything is dated and numbered, and you can follow him along the day, where he goes, almost by finding the shadows go in different ways. So this probably is Lock 1 because he took it and it's numbered after the one before, but I'm not exactly sure where the one before was taken. Anyway, this is where Lock 1 was. The lock house is there, but this has all been filled in to make a yard. But that's where, you know, Lock 1 was, something like that. So I probably bored you all enough by now. We could stay here for a long time because there's 2,000 pictures
This is
and
so interesting.
2,000
I love
documents.
the field aspect of it too.
Well, yeah, but you know, there's another aspect of it too. Let me just take you back down to Avon. No, I didn't want to go. I wanted to go on Avon, Farmington, and show you the other side of this. Because here we are, you know, back at Thompson Brook.
Right.
When we get to Thompson Brook, we're on this map. We can go into the history, and we can go down here, and we can go over to all these different things. But Thompson's Brook, here are the documents having to do with Thompson Brook. And this is Deacon Edward Hooker. On March 18th, he rode out to Mr. Atwater's canal operations. Mr. Punderson and Atwater were 2 New Haven contractors that built the part of the canal just south of Thompson Brook. So he's referring to Mr. Atwater, whom he knows. This is Deacon Hooker from Farmington. And he's going on business, blah, blah, blah. Whatever. Building a high and heavy embankment across the valley near my Norton pasture. I have not been there since its commencement. He's 25 or 30 men and teams at work. During the winter, they've made great progress in removing dirt from the neighboring hill, which I showed you the borrow pits, and carting it to the bank, weather milder today. All right.
So they did it mostly during the winter when the farms were slow.
That's right, because the farmers, everybody says Irishmen did it, but a lot of this canal was built by farmers because there was nothing to do in the winter and they could pick up some easy money with their animals and with their plows, and they moved the earth. And this was all very highly organized. They'd have a guy digging out the borrow pit, he'd throw it in the wheelbarrow, and the guy with the wheelbarrow would be there, and he'd wheel it off, and he'd dump it to the edge, and he'd dump it over, and he'd come back, and they had like 2 or 3 wheelbarrow men for each shovel man, and they would, just like a machine, around it, and the farther out they go, the higher it got. They kept dumping it over the edge until they'd filled the entire valley. Let's see. He's talking about, again, he called it Farm Brook. It was Thompson Brook, near my Norton pasture. Such work people at former times who lived there would not have conceived as possible to execute. Without the common strength and resources the country could soon bring to action, and indeed without the aid of New York wealth and enterprise. New York, he's referring here to Joseph P. Ennis and Company from Niagara County, New York, who worked on the Erie. They came over here and they built a lot of the difficult engineering structures, including the aqueduct and the piers, and they built the 120-foot tunnel for Thompson Brook. So these are the guys that did it, and this is a reference to them from New York. And then we have, here we have the actual accounting, Punderson and Atwater, section 26, which is the one just south of Thompson Brook. And these are what they paid to have that excavation done. And this is a lot of money we're talking about here.
Yes. Oh.
And here's the dates it was done and when it was built. And this is 2.5 stories of fill to fill that valley, which we cannot see anymore, but the total was, $9,000. When the money was worth 30 or 40 times what it is now. And here's the bill for Joseph P. Ennis to build this is for 3 culverts on 19, 20, and 26. This one is still in use. It's a place that used to be called in the 1930s and 20s Towpath Lodge. It's just south of Avon, where the road starts to wind back and forth because the road is actually in the canal, and that culvert is under that part of the canal with a road on it today, still working and still existing. This one is a little one on Avon Old Farms property, which I could show you, but you don't want to see. And then this one is 26, is the one we're talking about, and it was the big one, and that's where most of the expense probably went, but that's what he was paid for all 3 of them.
Wow.
So this goes along with the rest of the program so that you can go anywhere and look up, the history, the engineering, all the stuff that you want to see. This history pertains either to the Farmington Canal or the whole canal, or down here, just this particular map is these particular entries. So we got one for the aqueduct and one for the embankment. Oh, you know what I didn't show you?
Very cool. Well,
Let me
done, I
show
tell
you this.
Well organized.
This is the driveway. There's the house with the aqueduct on the other end. This is the canal. This is what I'm talking. The guy went down his driveway to get out. There it is.
Yes.
This is looking west. The house is behind us. And this is what the canal looked like before it was all overgrown like that now.
West,
Yeah.
That's where the trail is
And,
today.
and this is that's the junction.
Yep, yep.
Okay.
Fantastic. I'll tell you, your research is amazing. How long have you been doing the canal?
30 years. Without anything else, basically. Yeah.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.